the reality is you go into a marriage hoping and praying and thinking that it's going to last forever. I mean, that's the intent. I don't think people get married intentionally to be like, oh, I know after a year I'm not going to be with this person. So, yeah, I mean, I think we need to have those conversations with each other. I think we need to be open. We need to be honest. And then I think that people have to let go of this fear of not being with who they think that they're in love with, because it takes a lot more than love for marriage.
Yeah! This is DJ Kevy Kev. For all my BBW that's out there looking fly and know you're looking fly, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to give them a big yeah! For all my fellas out there that's rocking the SBBW, I want you to stand up and say yeah! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the BBW Network Podcast. I am your host, DJ Kevy Kev. I like to say what's up to all my BBWs out there and all the guys that love and support our BBWs. I also like to give a shout out to the BBW Network Facebook group. If you hadn't joined, please go do so right now. In this particular episode, we're going to be tackling the question whether or not a marriage is based on love or commitment. And in my opinion, and I have said this before, that a marriage is based on commitment, not love. Because hell, you can love a girlfriend, you can love a boyfriend, and then when you get tired of loving them or the euphoria wears off, hell, you can just move on. But when you marry somebody, you are saying to them that through thick and thin, through death do you part, or, and I'm going to add this in there because I know that most of y'all will agree with this particular item or items, until you abuse me or you commit infidelity, then I will be committed to you and only you. But if you just in love with somebody, that's not no commitment. That just means you in love and that's it. And I know some of y'all are going to be like, well, you got to have them both. But yeah, you do have to have them both. But when you in a marriage and you no longer feeling that love for a person, you still have to own up to your commitment. That's why you add the little part in there about until death do you part. Now, most people's argument is, why be with somebody that don't make you happy? Well, how about you ask yourself, what is that person doing that don't make you happy? Okay, the next thing you need to ask yourself is, what can you do better? Or what can you contribute to making both of y'all happy? How about you ask yourself, were you happy when you was single? Or you was with the last person you was with? See, if you really start digging deep into your unhappiness, it might not even be based on the person you with. A lot of people don't know what the hell make them happy. So when they get in a relationship and the euphoria is going, and in other words, I'm gonna keep this shit simple. When you popping bottles in the club and the strippers going and the money flowing and we drinking and we having ourselves a good old time, then when the money run out, you don't want to be friends no more. A marriage does not start until hard times set in. And then you find out what the marriage is made of. And let me clarify myself about this. I do not mean abuse. Hell, you can't be with nobody if they whooping your ass. That's impossible and you can lose your life. The next thing is infidelity is a no-no. That's a breach of commitment, a breach of contract. And that's just something that I don't think you really have to write that shit in. That's like understood. Some people do believe that even though you commit infidelity, you should stay in a marriage and work through it. And no, I don't agree with that, because once you commit infidelity, you're breaking a lot of rules within that one single act. First of all, you became dishonest. You're not trustworthy anymore. You add stress to the other person. Okay, a child can be born out of infidelity, and you can bring home some kind of disease. And I'm pretty sure if I sit here and add more things to the list, it'll grow bigger. And I know some of y'all can add more stuff to the list. Hell, it's even part of the 10 Commandments, even if you want to really get religious with it. I just wanted to make myself clear about those two exceptions. But yeah, you don't know what kind of marriage you got until the marriage is put under pressure. And I use another example. Just say you have a friend and y'all all giggly, goo, ha ha, you go everywhere together, you ride around together. You know, if you're a woman, you're looking at men. If you're a man, y'all checking out the women at the club, doing all kind of stuff. And somebody try to jump on you. And you think that person your best friend. But then that person run and leave you there to fight, or leave you there while you getting your ass whooped. Then that's when you find out if you have a friend. The friendship doesn't start until he stay there while you getting your ass whooped. Or, hey, it may not be that severe. It may be, hey man, I'm in a real bad jam and I need your help. And that guy might not have but $20, but he take 10 and give it to you. That's when you know your friendship has started. And I don't think some of y'all know that. And like in a marriage, I ain't necessarily talking about for women being with a dude when he loses his job or going to jail, or you find out the Negro got a child from damn near 15 years ago. I'm not talking about that. Even though those are big issues too, and I ain't gonna try to make light of stuff like that. But what I'm talking about is, ladies, when you're feeling like you're not getting enough attention, you feeling like you're not being loved. You know, the guys on social media tell you that you're beautiful every day. You start fantasizing about how good it's gonna be with this type of dude, and maybe you got your eye on this type of guy. You fantasizing about being with him. Now you're trying to think of all kind of ways you can get out the current situation that you in. Trust me, you in hard times in that marriage. Your marriage is under pressure when your husband don't feel the way or don't look at you the same, and he feel like he missing out on all them women that he could be talking to every day, and trying to figure out how he gonna be able to come on to the one that he like without being found out or discovered. What kind of decision is he gonna make? Is he gonna choose temptation over you or his family, his kids? Trust me, your marriage is under pressure. If the foundation of your marriage is based on love, then folks, I hate to tell you, that motherfucker is through. It's done. Over. Because the love is no longer there. There's no reason for the marriage to continue. But if it's based on commitment, then if you happen to be faced with temptation, if one of y'all lose your job and finances become an issue, one of y'all falls sick, you don't feel love, she don't feel love, you not getting your attention, she not getting attention, that commitment kicks in and you stay. And maybe you might go a year, maybe you might go 2 years. The love come back. Then guess what? Most likely, that marriage is probably going to be stronger than it was in the beginning, because now you've pushed through something, you've bonded, you have something to say, you know what, man, we went through all that shit, but look, we made it because we were committed. That commitment held you together, and now you back in love. Motherfucker, people feelings go and come. You think you just gonna be on that euphoria when you first met somebody all the time? No, not gonna be there. So you have to have that commitment. Anyway, let's go to the conversation. Tiffany.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good.
All right.
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Okay, since you doing good and I'm doing good, I'm going to start with this. Is being unhappy in a relationship a good enough reason for a divorce?
Well, the short answer is no.
No?
However,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think it depends on what the reason is for being unhappy. You know, if you're with someone for years and there are certain things.
Let me preface my question. Outside of abuse or infidelity, is being unhappy in a relationship good enough reason for a divorce? Outside of those two things.
Yeah.
you think so?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, I have to disagree because I think marriage is not based on love, it's based on commitment.
Right. I agree. But if one person is not committed to the marriage anymore, even outside of those two things, for example, if, one person is not committed to the well-being of the marriage and moving forward, you can't be in a marriage alone, right? So a marriage is teamwork. And so it takes two people. So if one of those persons decides that they're not going to hold up their end of the, per se, bargain, right, their duties, then there's no need for you to stay. I mean, because now you're not in a marriage any longer.
So what reason would it be for you to be, quote unquote, falling out of love with somebody or don't want to be inside the marriage? I mean, nobody put a gun to you.
Definitely, just because you leave a marriage, though, doesn't mean that you've fallen out of love. Because you could still be in love with somebody or love somebody and realize that being with them is not the best for both of you.
And why is that? I mean, because that's what, when you give those vows at the beginning, don't you agree through hell and high water that you're going to be in a relationship regardless? I mean, if you could just be in love.
Both people take those vows, not just one, right? Two people take those vows. So when one person is no longer committed to those vows,
why would you not be committed to those vows, though? That's the question.
Well, it depends on the person. I've been married before, and if it's a one-sided marriage, meaning I'm doing all the work, whether it's financial, whether it's in the household, and I'm committed to moving the family forward, and that person is not, that's dead weight. I don't care how much I love you or not. To me, marriage is more than just saying I love you, I'm gonna be with you forever. I mean, it's a partnership. And no one wants to be stagnant in a marriage. Well, most people don't, So if you and your partner have this plan and this idea that we're going to be partners, and then one person, just like a job, you do your job every day. The moment you stop doing your job, well, there's a possibility that you could be replaced, right? Or you're going to just get fired. So, that's the way that I look at it. It's more than just getting up there and saying till death do us part. Because if that's the case, then people, should stay married forever if you're just going off of just what those vows say.
Okay.
But there's a lot more that goes into marriage than just till death do us part.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Let's say you and I are married, right? Let's just say that you start carrying the relationship financially and I become a burden. I stop working, I become lazy. All right. Just say the first 3 to 4 years, we both working hard, we financially stable, then all of a sudden I lose my job, I don't find one for a couple of years. At what point do you say enough is enough? Because where I'm going with this is that when you're in a marriage, aren't you supposed to be with that person through thick and thin, through the hard times? Hell, I believe a marriage don't start until you hit the hard time. That's what I think.
Well, yeah, I agree I agree with you to an extent, but like you said, though, if I'm, with my husband and he loses his job, and there's a couple of bumpy years because of that, I'm okay with that if he is trying to do something. If he's still looking for work. Now, if he's just sitting at home all day and I'm coming home from work all day and 4, 5, 6 years done passed, he ain't found nothing, that's a problem. To me, you're not committed to the marriage, because anyone who's committed, even if you're not finding a 9 to 5, you can find a part-time job. You can go out here and cut some grass. What I mean? You can find a way to bring income into the home. Now, if the agreement, though, is that one person stay home and one person work, that's different. But if our agreement is, look, we coming into this marriage and financially we can't afford for one of us not to be working, then you have to hold up your end of the bargain.
So you think... go ahead.
No, that's okay. So I don't think that, a year or two someone falls on hard times, you need to run out of the marriage. Absolutely not, because like you said, it is a commitment. But when one person is falling short of that commitment over and over and over, and it's intentional, then now we're no longer in a committed marriage, because that person has said, I'm not committing myself to this marriage any longer. So you can't fight a battle by yourself. You got to have a team with you. You have to.
So you think being not financial stable or not wanting to get a job to make it easier, that would be a forfeit of the marriage? That means that you no longer
if it's intentional, absolutely. If it is intentional, absolutely. Absolutely.
So somebody,
I think that
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
No,
go ahead. So you think,
and no, I just think that it's, you know, and it's unfortunate because you have people out here that say, well, I want to get married because I want that security of knowing that somebody is gonna have my back, right? But that's their only reason for wanting to get married. So, oh yeah, I'm gonna go into the marriage full throttle, put on the, you know, on the gas. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna do this for 3 years, and then after 3 years, guess what? I ain't doing nothing else, no more. And it's my wife or and this goes for women too. You know, now it's my wife or my husband's responsibility to take care of me, and that's not the way that it works, unless that's something that you all have pre-gamed and talked about prior to the marriage. Now, if that's something that you both are okay with, because it may look, you know, depending on what someone does for a living, one income household may be okay. It may work for them. But if it doesn't, why is it fair because we said I do for you to intentionally take advantage of that and not do for your family? That's not a marriage at all. That's being selfish.
Okay. Now, do you think that before you get married, both of y'all should sit down and make a list of things that would absolutely forfeit the marriage if either of y'all, you know, broke those commitments?
Absolutely. I think that's what marriage premarital counseling is for. You know, I think that even if you don't go to premarital counseling, that's a great idea for you both to sit down and say, you know, these are the things that if you break this contract by doing X, Y, and Z, then we can no longer be married. Absolutely, I think that's a great idea.
What do you think about when a person say that they feeling lonely in the marriage? They don't feel like they're getting enough attention. Do you think that's good enough to get out of a marriage?
No. Well, see, this is my thing with anything that you're talking or referencing. I think it depends, because there are going to be times where you can't give your spouse everything that they need all the time. And no, that's not a reason to just say, you know what, for the last week, you know, Tom hasn't, you know, been telling me that I'm beautiful, so I'm leaving the marriage, or I'm going to step out on the marriage. Absolutely not. But if it's something that I'm consistently having to say, or my husband is consistently having to tell me, and I'm not making improvements to work on that, I think at the end of the day, people's happiness is important. Happiness is important. People seem to think that happiness is not important, and no matter how you do, you just got to keep going through life and keep pushing, and you know, that brings up a whole nother subject of depression and things of that nature. But if you are truly unhappy, I don't think anyone should stay in a situation where they are truly unhappy if there are not efforts being made to correct what's making them unhappy. Same thing with the husband. If a husband, you know, babe, when I met you, you would dress up once in a while, you would look nice for me. Now you just walk around in sweatpants and a t-shirt all day. Now, was that a reason for him to leave the marriage automatically? Absolutely not. But if he brings this to his wife's attention and she's not taking ownership of that and trying to make that better, now you're getting into a situation where it's like, well, what are you in the marriage for? Are you in the marriage to support me and to make me happy, or to assist in my happiness? Or are you just in the marriage just to say that you're married?
You know what I think? I think that when it comes to a person getting out of a marriage, I think that they use all those excuses. But I think that, for example, if what you're saying, you know, you married your husband and he don't dress up no more, And I think that when somebody get bored, or people get bored nowadays, or they just want to get out the marriage, I think they'll go straight to that excuse and be like, oh, I've told you that, you should dress up more, or you don't give me no attention. And I don't think they really push hard enough. I think that they just find all kind of excuses of why they should forfeit their marriage and not keep their word or vows. That's why I think divorce rates are so high, because it's always a back door.
But you know what? I think divorce rates, and I agree with you to an extent, because there are people out there, you know what I mean, that use that as an excuse. I totally agree with that. I also think, though, that we don't know each other enough before we get married.
That's true.
I think that, like you said, we don't have those hard conversations where, look, if this happens in our marriage, I can no longer be a part of it. Because the reality is, you go into a marriage hoping and praying and thinking that it's going to last forever. I mean, that's the intent. I don't think people get married intentionally to be like, oh, I know after a year I'm not going to be with this person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we need to have those conversations with each other. I think we need to be open. We need to be honest. And then I think that people have to let go of this fear of not being with who they think that they're in love with, because it takes a lot more than love for a marriage.
Exactly.
It does. If you look back in the 50s and 60s, when, probably our parents, you were told once you marry, that's it. But there was a lot of work that went into those marriages. There was a lot of compromise. Most of the time, the woman stayed home, took care of the kids. The husband went out and got what they needed to get for their family. Doesn't mean it was always perfect, no. But everyone had a role, right? And everyone stood by their role. Now, the only times where you would see marriages back then break up is when one person didn't fulfill their role.
But them old people, man. The only thing they didn't have back then was social media, because they had some stuff going on for real. Hell, my grandfather had children by two women that lived next door to each other.
I believe it.
Yeah,
my great-grandmother, I didn't even know my great-grandfather wasn't my blood great-grandfather till I was probably in my late 20s. I thought that was my great-grandfather, but that wasn't. And the children that she had were not his children, and I didn't know that either. So there were a lot of things, like you said, that were swept under the rug. And those things nowadays are more prevalent because of social media and because, communities are so much larger, and everything that goes on in the house doesn't stay on in the house. Back then that's how it was.
Yeah.
What goes on in here stays in here. We don't take that outside. But I think, too, to a degree, some of that stuff was good. Because then you didn't have outside influences. You didn't have people trying to tell you, what works for your marriage and what shouldn't work for your marriage. So, I mean, I guess there's always a gray area, I guess, per se.
Yeah. You know what? I tell people like this. Marriage is like it's like a business, and most people think that, and I'm going to say it in this way. Most people think that when you go into business and you start making money, that's how it's going to always be.
Right.
When you see that first big paycheck, I'm telling you, you don't get no better feeling when you get that first huge paycheck. You think, oh, man. But then when the hard time hit and you go months and months and months without seeing a paycheck, and you working, 18, 19 hours, and then you're ready to quit. I think that's how marriages is. You start off with the euphoria. When you first meet, it's lovey-dovey. Everything about that person is great. But then after a while, it gets boring. They do the same thing. It's just routine. And now you start making up all kind of excuses. And then if you tell yourself a person is bad long enough, eventually in your mind they'll become bad, and you'll find a way to get out of it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's a great analogy. That really, really is, because you're not always going to get that big paycheck in a marriage. For me, though, it's not about the big paycheck. It's knowing that somebody, my thing is this: as a married couple, if you're successful, you're successful together. If you're struggling, you're struggling together. If you're going through good times, it's together. Hard times, it's together. But when one of those persons takes themselves out of that equation and now makes it about them, you're no longer in a marriage, because it is a partnership. And so, you know, if I'm sitting on $5,000, but my husband is broke, and, you know, of course, that depends on how you're deciding to do things, if you keep your bank account separate and things of that nature. But I shouldn't be struggling and my husband is doing great, or vice versa.
No.
What's mine is his, what's his is mine.
Exactly.
You know, and you got to work together. And once one person decides, you know what, no, I'm single in this, see, now you're no longer in a marriage, because that person's mine. So it doesn't matter if you stay with them for 50 years.
Yep.
It's not going to change. You are always going to be in a singular marriage.
Yep. Because
with yourself.
Yep. And you're exactly right. Because if you're with somebody and they got a spare bank account, it's almost like they got one foot out the door.
Exactly.
They
yep, are. I agree with that.
It's like, yeah, you make one wrong move, guess what? I got me some fallback money.
Gone.
That's it. And I think that,
right.
you know, I think a lot you have to have principle. I think it's that, you know what, I'm marrying you. Ain't nobody put no gun to my head to marry you, so I need to make sure you're the one. But I do realize that your life may transition different than mine, because we human. You know,
right.
As we go through life, you might want to travel right now and just see the world. I might not want to do that right now. And that
right.
might can cause a conflict. It might can
Absolutely.
cause a conflict. You might want to go to school and get a degree. I might be trying to start a business from the ground up. That might conflict. You might not want to be involved in nothing like that. You just want to you know, go to get-togethers, work a 9 to 5, come home, rest, be with the children, but I might want to do something else. And
right.
I think that, you know, you have to have a bond, and that bond that's set in the middle, it should be like, we might be at different places right now, but no matter what, I'ma stay
right.
because we got that bond.
And that's where that partnership comes in, right?
Yep.
Because even though like you said, we're in different places, at the end of the day, our common goal is to make sure that we both get to where we want to be.
Exactly.
But, you know, in our own individual goals, but goals that are going to help our family move forward. And that's why I say it's very important for people to, you know, to understand, look, this is not something that you, like you said, you're going to wake up every day and you're going to get reward every single, it's not going to be like that. Like you said, you might be on one side of the world, I might be on the other side of the world. But if you have that partnership, it doesn't matter what you all are doing, you know that you're doing the best for each other. And as long as you keep that in your mind, it's okay, because at the end of the day, if I decide we're married and I'm going to school, but you starting a business, me getting a better education might help you in your business later on. It may be something that I'll be able to do that you don't have to hire somebody for or pay money out of pocket for.
Exactly.
You starting a business, maybe I don't have to work a 9 to 5 and work for somebody else. I can work for my husband's company. So at the end of the day, it's a partnership. But as long as two people's mindset is on each other, I think everything. And that's why when people, like you said, when people say, oh, well, you know, he doesn't make me happy because he doesn't do this, or she don't dress up no more, or whatever. But that there's some truth to that, because if you're no longer here working for the partnership for both of us, that there's a problem. Now, it may not be the dressing up. It may not be, you know, maybe I'm not dressing up because I don't feel as confident. But that's for my husband to help me through, right? Not just to say I'm going to leave. Yeah. It's like, okay, babe, well, I've talked to you about this. You still haven't changed it. Wow, what's going on? Well, to be honest, you know, I haven't thought myself, well, what do we need to do? You know, do you need to get in the gym? Do you need to, you know, have a day to yourself every week? You know, that's a partnership. Yep. But once you deviate from that partnership, to me, it's no sense in even being married, honestly. And again, I'm not talking about after a week. I'm talking about after time. You like, look, this needs to be fixed. We need to figure this out. But you're the only one trying to figure it out. And that other person is going about their day like nothing is, you know, that's a problem. Yeah. That is a problem.
Yeah, I think it's a problem, but I always go back to this theory. If you and I was on an island, and I'm talking about me and another lady is on an island, and there's nobody there but us. we ain't gonna have no choice but to fix the problem.
That's true.
I think that divorce is a back door. It's a way that, you know what, I can do this, and if it don't work out, I always got a back door to get out of it. And
well, let me ask you this. So do you believe in marriage? In other words, do you believe that marriage is the only way to have a fulfilling relationship?
Well, it all depends on how you define marriage. Now, if you want to say marriage license, that's a business agreement. That's all that is. That obligates you financially, and the court helps you decide, you know, what's going to happen with the kids. But no, before marriage license came along, I mean, all you had to do was get ordained by an ordained minister. But I think that you become married when both of y'all commit to one another. Now I could get a little bit deeper with that, but I ain't gonna do that. But
right.
Yeah, I think that, you know, when both of us become married and we agree, that's basically you're giving your word. Because once you break your word, that means you're lying.
Yeah.
So.
True.
Yeah, that means you're not holding up to your end of the bargain. Now, if you go out and commit infidelity, now you just forfeited the marriage. Now, I don't know you now, because before you committed infidelity, I knew you. You was an honest person. You was loyal. But then when you commit infidelity, that means you're disloyal. So basically, I have to recommit to you now that you are a different person. You're not.
So do you feel like infidelity is a reason to walk away?
Oh yeah, because
automatically you don't feel like you should still work on it?
Well, this is my thing. If you want to recommit to somebody and be like, okay, I'm gonna recommit to you, because our first commitment is broken now. It's gone. It's like having that best friend and you swear by them. They're the best person in the world. They always gonna be there for you. They're gonna do X, Y, and Z. And then when they don't do that, and when you're in a jam and they run away, then you can't swear by them no more. That's not the friend that you put all your investment in. That's a whole other person that you never knew before. Now they shady.
Right.
So now, if you want to recommit to that shady person, you gotta your whole approach towards that person gonna be different. Like, that's just like if a thief is in your house, or you had a partner that you swear that he don't steal, man, you just leave your wallet on the coffee table and you good. But if he steal your money, I bet you won't leave it.
But now, what if that person says that they're going to recommit themselves to being faithful again, and that this will never happen? I mean, so are you okay with that? If that person makes yet another commitment, or you feel like once that initial commitment of being faithful and honest is broken, there's no turning back?
Well, like I said, you're going to have to reevaluate the person, and then you're going to have to ask yourself, are you willing to do that again? Are you willing to trust that person? Are you willing to give them the benefit of the doubt again? If you're not, and you try to and you try to go through the relationship trying to get back the old person that you had, it's gonna probably not gonna work, because you're gonna try.
And so the way you see the infidelity is the same way that I see when someone is not pouring into the relationship, whether it be financially, emotionally. I feel like that all falls under the same thing.
And now that you say it, it could, now because, I mean, you can't live in the world without money. I mean, that's just like it's food, clothes, shelter, and water, but now it's money. You just can't do it. You can't live without finances. It's impossible. Unless you, I don't know. But
unless you go live in the mountains and say you just want to be able, but nowadays you got to even pay for that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So, that's got, and I mean, if you love somebody and you sitting on the couch soaking up cable and TV, and they out in the cold, got to go crank up the car in the morning time, and you just chilling, I mean, you got to see that person is struggling.
Right.
So if you're not, if you can't see that, then that means you probably don't care about them no more.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yep, exactly though. And that's the thought process. Is like when you see someone struggling and doing things on their own and you have the means to help. I'm not saying take over so they ain't gotta never do nothing in life. But, you are not coming together with that person. You gotta not care about that person. Like you said, any longer. There has to be something going on to where you're like, you know what, I'm tapping out.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to let them do. And so now you're no longer in this marriage. You're no longer with this person because they're going to commit their lives to you because now they're starting to do things for themselves only. And that's a problem.
Exactly. That is definitely a problem because, I mean, marriages can be tricky anyway. But
right.
I think the reason why I asked this question is because it's just so much. It's so many people that, they'll get married to somebody, and then the next minute they gone, and then they talk themselves out of their marriage because their interest level is somewhere else now, and it's not in the marriage. And a lot of times they try too much to fix the other person when they need to be trying to fix themselves.
That's true. And being married before it's easy to place blame on the other person. I mean, I think that's human nature, is that the first thing you want to do is look for someone to blame it on instead of looking at yourself. Because, too, it's hard sometimes when you think you know yourself, and then you get into these situations where you like, dang, I really don't know myself, Like, I thought I knew myself, but going through this situation, if you would have asked me this question a year ago, my answer would have been totally different, So it's hard realizing that there are things that you have to fix about yourself that you thought you knew, but then you realize going through what you're going through that's not who you are. You think you're going to be this type of person, but then when you're really thrown into the fire, you're like, oh my gosh. And so you have to do a reality check.
Yeah.
And I think too, for me now in my 40s, definitely who I am now is not who I was in my 20s, And so my first marriage, I had gotten married I don't want to say very young, but young. I was 24. I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know anything. And so there comes a time where too I realized while I was married, like my father wasn't in my life, and so that shaped and molded a lot of my decisions. But at that time, I didn't know that, right? So I was thinking that I was basing a lot of my decisions in my marriage and prior to my marriage on just who I was, not because my dad wasn't there. So then as I got older, I became this different person, and I realized I had a lot of trauma, really, because I didn't have a father.
Yeah.
And when I started working through that trauma, I had to look at myself and that person and be like, this is not the person that I would have married, honestly, had I would have known all this stuff. So I think we don't know ourselves enough. I don't think we know the person we're marrying enough. Sometimes before we get married, and it's doomed. There's no way out of, like, you were doomed, and unfortunately you just have to learn from it. But so I think a lot of that plays a part too. I really do.
And I think so too. Well, I'd like to thank Miss Tiffany for coming on the show and helping us shed a light on whether or not we married for commitment or love. Anyway, fam, we done beat this horse enough, which brings us to the end of this particular episode. I would like for you to subscribe and share this podcast. I would also like for you to go to the BBW Nework Plus Facebook group and hit us up over there. Also, check us out on Instagram. Until next time, fam, be happy.